Welcome everyone to this first edition of QB Tech Byte presented by Quadbridge. My name is Luc Bélanger. I'm the Chief Operating Officer at Quadbridge, and I'm delighted to be your host today. On the menu, we have a subject that should resonate with everyone, enabling the remote workforce in these new times where most workers now have to work from home. But before we get into the presentation, I would like to introduce our guest speakers today. Together, they will cover how we can use available technology to facilitate and make remote work more productive. With us, we have Miriam Abdulaziz, who is Channel Manager and Specialist for Modern Workplace at Microsoft Canada. Hello, Miriam. And we have Charles Friedman, our Regional Manager Sales at Samsung. Hi, Charles.
Good afternoon.
We have a very interesting subject with multiple facets today, but we really only have 45 minutes. So what we will cover in this first presentation is work from home in the point of view of the worker and the productivity. But this presentation will be followed by another Tech Byte at a later date on the same subject, but from the point of view of the IT administration and the management. Yeah, 2020. Back in March, our world totally changed in ways we never expected, actually. We all had to scramble and find quick ways to enable our workers to work from home, running after laptops, running to big box stores, trying to find anything they had, but sometimes with better than expected result, and most of the time with a number of new headaches. And those headaches are often still present today. And it was supposed to be only for a few weeks. We all know how this went. So we had to learn to adapt. So we adapted to the way we commute to work. We adapted to setting ourselves up at home to be able to be efficient at work. And we learned to manage the distraction we have in the home. Now that we've been living like this, we realize that working from home or remotely is not a fad and it will not disappear after the pandemic. It's here to stay. It's part of our new normal. Over the years, the pressure driving toward remote working has been building, but no one could have predicted the seismic shift caused by COVID-19. Remote working is no longer a privilege or a benefit, and it's also more than a current make-do, slap-together solution for organizations looking to conduct business as usual during COVID. Senior leaders have the opportunity to leverage this inflection point to drive sustainable competitive advantage for their organization in this new normal. And no, it's not for everyone. But according to a large number of studies on work from home, in between 42% and 60% of workers don't want to go back to the office. They want to continue remote work. So much that in a recent survey by Gallup, it was revealed that 54% of US workers would leave their jobs for one that allowed them to work remotely now. It's also became clear to CEOs that the huge line item on their spreadsheet for real estate may not be the best way to spend their money anymore. Having people work from home, even if it's not everyone at all the time, is proving to be profitable. According to KPMG, 68% of CEOs of large enterprise say they now want to take this opportunity to significantly reduce their real estate spend. It's an opportunity as employers are discovering a new approach to business. Productivity does not have to go down at all. It can be maintained, even enhanced, because commute and office distraction are gone. More time is available for work and for personal stuff. And the reality is what we're discovering is that work is not about place and time, it's about outcomes. Managers are learning to let more autonomy and encourage empowerment. Empowered workers produce better work with fewer defects. Some studies are even calculating that 40% fewer defects. When you combine productivity and empowerment, you create a stronger bond between the worker and their company. A large number of organizations are reporting higher engagement scores in 2020. We are all in this together, never resonated as strongly in business as this year. Some study calculated 41% lower absenteeism. That's huge. And employers are also looking at how can they adapt. So By adapting their real estate strategy, they can save significant amount of money. Organizations save on average $11,000 a year per part-time telecommuter. This in the rough national statistics equates to 21% in profitability. It can be very good for companies. Com- Companies such as Shopify, Facebook, Square, Google, they are joining in the movement with permanent or long-term work from home policies that essentially allow nearly every employee to work from home if they choose so. This is an important transition time for all companies. Some could even say it's a defining moment in history. Remember, just a few months ago, companies were struggling to hire good candidates. Now they're discovering that they no longer must recruit from within a specific geographical area. Office space can be cut as much as 50%. Travel and expenses have all gone down drastically, and they might not go back to previous year's level as the need for in-person meetings will often be replaced by video conferences. Digital transformation is happening at record speed. Opening a new market geography is as simple as hiring local resources that will work remotely. For some, this was already their reality, but they were the exception. In this new normal, we predict that companies that are embracing remote work will be the exception. It's all super exciting, but how do we help our employees benefit and be productive amongst all these major transformations of the workplace? What's more important over anything else is that the notion that people working from home have the same responsibilities and the same needs as in-office employees. To help them be as productive remotely as they would be in the office, you need to provide secure and flexible work solutions that are going to provide security and availability so everyone can collaborate and share documents and keep the business moving forward as if there was no difference between being remote or on-site. First, you need to provide the appropriate tools to accomplish the task. And there's a big difference here. Basically, the laptop is the new workplace. It's no longer where you sit. It's the workplace in your hand. And user will carry this office anywhere and whenever work must be done. The cloud collaboration and social tools will now be the human and social link to the organization. When our lives go back to a normal world or a new normal, the laptop will keep its new place. No matter if you work from home, from the office, on the run, or traveling around the globe, the workplace is your laptop. This new class of workers need collaboration, application, and performing machines. And Miriama from Microsoft will tell us more about this subject in a few minutes. But what do you need to have a productive or setup in your home? Well, there's a number of things. First, obviously, you need broadband internet connectivity. We strongly suggest 50 megabit and up if you have more than one person working from home and making video calls over the internet. If you can budget it, we would also suggest to add an LTE backup solution that would ensure that your users are always online, and at the same time, they ensure that they have the proper bandwidth when they're doing communications. Don't underestimate the importance of having an external monitor for productivity. Employees work faster and have less fatigue when they have more screen real estate. Charles from Samsung will cover this in a few minutes. Video calls are now an important part of everyone's business day. Headset with a noise canceling microphone to limit the ambient noise affecting the call quality and the experience for the other user is important. A high definition webcam with low light sensors is important. It will not be the same as being face-to-face with someone, but it's important to have a good quality when you're having a call. One of the most frequent questions I hear is, what kind of camera I need to look good on screen? Well, it all starts with having proper lighting. A well-lit room, if you can, have an exterior window with natural light in front of you, not behind you, or else people will only see your shadow. You will look like Darth Sidious on screen. Could be the intended also. Also, a desk lamp next to you will help, especially if there's a shade, to have soft light. Try to position the camera at eye level and mind your background, or use the virtual background function now available on all video calls applications. A good setup is also important for safety. Yes, safety. Since the start of the confinement, number of workers complaining and seeking medical attention for shoulders, neck, back pain has exploded. You could almost say that it's a pandemic. Workers crunch over the laptop, they hurt their shoulder and wrist with desks or chairs that are too high or too low. But the basic ergonomic is not that complicated. You need to place the top of the monitor at eye level, slightly higher if you have a very large monitor. The arm should be parallel to the floor, and the wrist should be flat with a small downward angle. The hips just a little bit above the knees, while your feet are firm on the ground or on a footrest if necessary. Not everyone realizes how important it is to have a proper ergonomic setup. Most of our corporate offices are equipped with ergonomic furnitures and peripherals. Until you don't have it, you don't necessarily realize how much it can protect you. An important information to know for everyone on this call is that by law, the employer is responsible to ensure workers have a safe work environment, and this applies even to at-home workers. Working on the sofa with the laptop on the coffee table or sitting at the dining table with a laptop on the table is not a good setup for long-term work. User will develop health problem, and also they won't be as productive as they would like to be. But the employer control is limited. You can't really go see each employee at home to design and personalize a workplace for them. So you need to focus on what you can control. You can provide ergonomic tutorial and guides. I would even say mandatory ergonomic tutorial and guides. Provide items like obviously your laptop, monitors, surge suppressor, and also fire extinguisher, because better be safe than sorry. If you use voice over IP, you have to mandate and teach your employees on how to map their address to their VoIP profile. If you don't use VoIP, by the way, you should really book a discussion with some of our experts. But it's important to map this, because if they dial 911, you want the emergency service to show up to their address. Encourage the use of proper furniture. You might even think about offering subsidies for acquisition of chair and desk. This is becoming more and more frequent, because study finds that work from home setup that provides comfort, increase engagement, and boost productivity. So let's see what a good setup could look like. As in good presentation, sometimes the slide don't move as you want. There we go. So here's a good example of one where you have a very efficient setup. You have an ergonomic chair, and all studies demonstrate that we spend more time sitting in front of our chair, in front of our computer sitting, than when we're at the office. We strongly encourage you to have an ergonomic desk chair with arm support and mini adjustment. The height of your desk, that is a fairly complex subject. There are multiple recommendations from different studies. The reality is we're all different. Some people are tall, short, they have long torso, short torso, long neck, short neck, and so on. So the best option is actually to use an adjustable desk, such as a stand-up desk, that you can easily, at the push of a button, go up and down to make it personal to you and make it ergonomic. If you can go with an adjustable desk, well, the rule of thumb is the desk could be in between 25 and 28 inches, depending on how tall you are. If you're interested, I will post some resources, some link after the webinar to help you set up an efficient workspace at home. Here are 2 tips that you will not find in different studies. They are based on my personal experience, 10 years as part-time telecommuting and managing remote teams. 1, you should place a clock within your eyesight when you're working. The one on the screen is not enough. You need to have one where you can actually see, because when you're at the office, the movement of your colleagues, the noise of the colleagues gives you an idea of the time that passes, but it's not really happening at home. And sometimes you just fly right through times because you're concentrating on something. My other tip is no printer. If you can do without a printer, you're going to enhance your life. And it's also going to enhance how you manage your workers, because they're going to learn to work paperless, protecting the information, and instilling a discipline on how to use the online filing system with proper backups. So strongly encourage no printer, and also it reduces the cluttering effect on your desk. What I like of this example is that the workplace doesn't take too much space here, and it's discreet enough so it can be integrated within the decor. You know, let's keep the thing neutral. I have another example here. This one is illustrate a setup in a small space, maybe in a bedroom. As we see, there's a bed there, but it still offer the key ergonomic feature, such as a sit-stand position. And as in the previous example, obviously, there's a good chair. You see that again. So another element which is important is having wireless keyboard and mouse, so you can move them where you need them to be. A desk lamp. I didn't talk about this in the previous example, but as I said earlier, the desk lamp can also help you when you're on camera. If you use a desk lamp that has a shade, it's going to help light up your face and make a better image. So this is also what's important is when you're going to be thinking of how you're going to equip your employees, you have to understand that this is now part of the home decor, and everybody has different tastes. And so we encourage you to go with furniture and equipment with neutral and minimalist design that minimize cluttering. And if you need to absolutely go with the minimum, what we believe is the minimum for you is a good chair, a monitor, a headset, keyboard, and obviously a laptop. Now, in my next slide, it's kind of redundant, but at the same time, we really hesitated before putting this slide here. But we're getting so many times we're getting the question of how can I look good on camera? I'm always on camera. How do I look good? Do I need to change everything and say? So, well, there's a few essential rules. So basic rules. First of all, light is everything. So you should have a good light source in front of you, not in your back, as I mentioned earlier. Use diffuse light, like lamp with a shade, or there's those china ball, paper balls that you can use that are excellent for accentuating the face without accentuating the imperfection. I would strongly suggest to use a HD webcam. The new webcams or the recent webcams will help you look better because they have low light sensors and they require less light to be able to provide a good image. Like in my case here, I actually have almost no light around me. Place the camera, as I said, over eye level so you can feel like you're having a discussion with the participants. And the participants are going to judge you based on your background. And so you should take a good look at what's behind you, what you have as a background, because you don't have to expose all your personal secret to everyone. So I recommend stage your background, or you can simply use the virtual background feature that is now offered in most applications like Microsoft Teams. And lastly, dress for the parts. Well, if you have a worn out t-shirt and a baseball cap, that might not be the best branding element for yourself when you're having discussion with your colleagues or with customers. Now, let's hear from Microsoft on how to address the new reality of work from home. Miriama, if you want to take it over from here.
All right, all right. Thank you so much. To be honest, I started looking around to make sure that my setup was good and that you could see everything was to the point that you were sharing. I just want to make sure three things. Can you see me, hear me well, and see my screen?
Yes, we can see very well.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And thanks everybody for being here. This is yet another webinar. So we know you've been on many of those recently. So we will try to make it short and sweet for you to make sure you're enjoying it. To echo everything that Hugues was saying, we are truly living in a unique moment in history. but I do think we've been learning a lot. So we've been learning a lot to be more resilient, to be more proactive versus reactive. But we are now thinking of using new words in the new way we work. I remember at the beginning of the year, we still were saying the future of work, but now we talk about the new world of work. So the vocab has been changing, the way we work has been changing, the way we live has been changing. But it's all going to be good for us in the future because we will know how to react to those more proactively and be ready. God forbids anything else happens. What I want to talk about today and what I want to highlight and would be the goal of our conversation is how we can take a step back and then really look at what should be top of mind. What are really the best practices for remote or hybrid work? And if I want to leave you with two elements today is from an IT standpoint, I would hope you think about two main groups. And this would start with your people, so your employees. From a productivity standpoint, are they enabled to do the work that they need to do from home or from anywhere else? Are they doing that securely or not? And the next group would be your data, so your information. How are your information managed? How are your devices managed? Are you ensured that you are prepared for any cyber threat, for instance? So these are the two things that I will be going through today, and I'll be balancing between the two to ensure we cover them well. But before we start, I really wanted to say that you're really not alone in this. At Microsoft, I think we have had the chance to be very close to our customers and to see how they are reacting to this, how we can help them go the next mile. So we've been working very closely with the public sector, with the healthcare sector, and more importantly, with SMBs, which are the backbone of our society and needed a lot of support in these times. Every single one of us has been really focusing on how can we better help you react to that, be it with new technologies that came to the market more rapidly, or by working even more closely with our partners such as Quadbridge, our gold partner, in order to scale expertise and to act quickly. Our CEO, Satya Nadella, said at the beginning of the pandemic, we have seen 2 years of technological advancement in only 2 months. And so we've been looking at companies across industries, and it's been unbelievable the amount of work that's been done to really bring more technology to the market so we can all work more productively and continue the work that we used to work on even before the pandemic. So it's really a journey. And if I borrow his words, we went from responding to the pandemic to now recovering and even reimagining how we're going to do this. So it's really a teamwork that we need to continue doing together. I still remember in March when we went home and everybody was saying, hey, we'll get back. It's going to be fine. It's going to be a couple of weeks. Then it went to a month or two. And we still thought it was going to be a quick period of time. But then we suddenly realized that we were a couple months in, and now we're 10 months in. But that urgency at the beginning for IT professional created an urgency to really react with new projects, to implement projects that were pushed aside in order to enable employees to work from home, for instance. For some of them, the projects were implemented and IT partners helped in doing that. But for many, what happens is that they reacted with what we call the panic buy. So it was purchasing a product for teamwork, purchasing another product for video conferencing, and another one for security, and another one for another way of working. And what happened is it created a bubble of different products, too much to take at the same time. From the employee standpoint, it was a lot to take on for the ones that were used to being in the office. So it was suddenly no boundaries between home and work, more hours worked. We spent so much time on our screens. And then we also quickly realized that it was not going to be a phase, but more of a lifestyle. And as Statistics Canada suggested, more people will be working from home even after the pandemic is quote unquote over. So we can expect that hybrid environment to be the new way of living. Now, if I go back to the idea of the panic buying, what happened actually is that bubble started to crack. And the reason why this happened is that it was built on very old infrastructure, legacy security, very old devices that were brought from the back end and they were 5, 6 years old. There is so much on premise yet that has not changed. And so building on top of that, which is what we call the bolt-on, made it much harder for IT professionals to actually keep it more smooth in terms of the environment. So we started to see that cracking, and that duct tape didn't work for a long time. From a user perspective, having to move between so many applications and having to access through VPN and servers that are on-prem from home wasn't really comfortable. So we started seeing that support and help desks were receiving an overloaded number of requests and ticketing. Now, what really happened in the mind of IT professionals is that there was a lot of questions. It was very challenging, and we really understand that. On the one point, you were looking at ensuring that your employees were connected, they were productive in a remote way, and that they were able to do that all safely. But at the same time, you wanted to look at your data and wanted to ensure that you were safe from cyber threat, from data loss. And so there was too much to take care of, which is what created that panic buy. Now, some of the questions that we've been receiving is, okay, now how can I make sure that my employees have access to information that is now on premise because we couldn't move to the cloud quickly? How can we do that? How can we protect them from phishing attacks? Because this has also increased tremendously. As we know, a lot of people take advantage of situations like this. And so we've been seeing the number of attacks increase. How can I make sure that my employees have the right devices? How can I choose the right device? And how can I make sure that the deployment and the management of these devices is well done? And so the major question here is, how can I really go from that quick fix approach to a more sustainable remote and hybrid work? Now I'll go on 2 steps. On the first thing, let's talk about productivity and user perspective, and then I'll go a little bit more on the security area. From the productivity standpoint, what have we added? What have we improved? What have we found that was most useful for employees for their productivity? And I really hope the videos that you're seeing here on the screen show how we are trying to make the meeting experience more engaging and more inclusive. You can see from the examples that, for instance, we're trying to make meetings more interactive, because when you feel that you can see your colleagues all at the same time in a more room way, then you can feel that you're all together. It's different from seeing the camera separately, but feeling that you're in the same room, it's just a different feeling that we all miss. On another point, we've been also trying to make these live events more interactive with live captions, live translations, for instance, comments on the side, emojis that you can put to showcase your emotions and how you're feeling about what's being talked about. And lastly, you all know about that background blur or the photos that you can put in your background. But other types of technologies that we are developing and that are coming in the market are some like background noise cancellation. If you have someone at home, or you have kids at home, or even have a pet at home, you know you really want a feature that would cancel any noise behind you. So these are some of the AI enhanced technologies that you want to look at for your employees, and that employees are actually requesting. So these new features that you're seeing that we're trying to bring to the market have been requested. And a lot of our customers actually reach out and say, hey, can you bring this to the market? And this is what I meant by saying we're really in this together. We're trying to make it easier. And so hearing back from you is only going to make it better. As an employee, I also want to have that experience of before the meeting and after the meeting that I used to have when I was in the office. But I would say expectations have even increased a little bit more than that. Employees are actually looking to have that experience even better than what they had in the office. So when I used to take my device and sit next to my colleague and work on a PowerPoint, I want to do that from home. So how can I do that? This is actually enabled by co-authoring on cloud-based documents. So if your PowerPoint is on OneDrive, you're able to share it and co-author with your colleagues on it. And it's really having that hub of teamwork where you can actually find those files and be able to go back to them anytime you want. During the meeting, I want to be able to work on a whiteboard and co-author documents and collaborate. So having a whiteboard integrated into Teams, for instance, makes it so much easier to be able to take a screenshot of that whiteboard and be able to share it in the conversation. Now, what happens after the meetings? Because if you're like me, you are on back-to-back all day long. And what happens when we're on back-to-back is we finish a meeting, we had shared some information in the chat, some links, we chatted about a lot of topics, and then we say, hey, I need to jump to another meeting. And then we forget what we discussed because we are on 10, 12 meetings a day. So what we worked on is to ensure that once you leave the meeting, you can come back and you will find a transcript of what was discussed. You can find your chat notes even if you come to that meeting specifically a week or later. And so you're able to find the information that you need in order to do a recap or send a follow-up, etc. So it's that idea of having it an end-to-end experience for your employees. Now we're talking about applications and how you use them, so more on the SaaS side. But one thing that has been very neglected by IT professionals and organizations for a long time has been devices. And from a device standpoint, it's like very important to have the right device that enables you and your employees to work productively. Some of the points that you mentioned, which are the screen quality, the camera, the sound, for instance, are very important because we are spending most of our time on these devices. But other points are really the performance, so the compute of the device. How can I make sure that I'm working on different documents, but also being on camera, sharing my screen, and my device can take that? A 6-year-old device will not be able to take care of all these at the same time. So you really want to look at the performance of the device, as well as the versatility and the maniability. When I'm talking about something with my colleagues and I want to highlight something, I can come and highlight something in my PowerPoint or make notes on it to ensure that everybody has a focus on a specific point that I want. So having a touch screen makes it very different. If you have the pen, even better. And so while we are bringing a lot of devices, new devices to the market, I wanted to highlight that all the Surface family was designed and made to be working and learning from everywhere. So they all have these features that you see here on the screen, but we have a device depending on the role. Do you want it to touch your device? Do you want to have it more stable, etc.? And we can help you, and the Quadbridge team can help you in this. So now we talked about productivity. How can we make sure the device is productive? How can we make sure the applications are productive? But back to you, IT professional. If I want to talk about security and being ready for any cyber risk or minimizing any cyber risk, there are 3 points or 3 pillars that I would focus on. Your users, so we're really back to your people. Your data, so the information, your information or your customer's information, as well as endpoints, being it hardware and devices. From an identity perspective, I want to make sure that my employees' access is secured. So here we're talking about multi-factor authentication, conditional access. We're talking about email protection. So it's the idea of having your employees secured from the second they open their device and they're authenticated to when they collaborate and send emails. From the data perspective, you're really looking at protecting your data from any leaks. For labeling your data as sensitive documents, enabling your employees to put it as a sensitive document, and really ensuring that there is no data loss. And lastly, but not least, endpoints. So when we look at hardware and devices, we're really looking at ensuring that the devices are managed, that they're up to date, and that they're used in the right way. So here you want to look at how are you deploying them and how are you managing them. To give you more details, let's look at your experience as an IT professional when you deploy and manage devices, because this can easily get overwhelming. From a deployment perspective, I think COVID-19 really proved to us that you want to deploy your devices without any physical touch. So this new employee that you've hired during the pandemic that you want to send a device to, you don't want to have a lot of white glove on the device. So when we talked about zero-touch deployment through Autopilot, we talked about an experience where you create a profile for your employee, you ship the device to their home, and then they're able to log in, authenticate, connect to their AD, and then they are up and running to work. So it's really that experience that makes it seamless. From a management perspective, you want to be able to push policies from one single console and be able to secure and update your devices even when they're asleep. So here, you want to ensure that you're receiving the right and complete reporting and diagnostics on your devices, and ensuring that you are armed with all of these information you need to ensure that everything is running smoothly from an IT perspective. Now, I talked about productivity, I talked about security, but at the end of the day, and if I go back to a quote from Satya Nadella, we're really working from home, but it sometimes feels like we are sleeping at work. And so when we look at that, we have our devices, we have our applications, we're well secured, we're in the cloud. How can we make sure that the setup is right and ergonomics are right? And for this, I'll really pass it on to our colleague, Charles from Samsung, to tell us more about it. But I really wanted to thank you for your presence today. And please let us know if you have any questions that we can help with. Thank you so much.
Great. Thank you, Miriam.
Thank you.
Oh, we seem to be having some technical difficulty with the screen sharing. There we go. Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for taking the time. We really appreciate it. So it's very important to discuss the flexibility of having that external desktop.
We don't see the slides.
Okay. Now do you see it?
Yep.
Perfect. So the first step of desktop monitors, Samsung's been in this business for many years, and we've always had a focus of doing the proper reproduction of all the information you want to see. And like everything in real life and business, a lot of it has to do with real estate. So for the original 4:3 images, as it has expanded for different resolutions and extra productivity of space, we've improved our monitor set by having larger images from standard definition to now high definition, our ultra wide technology, and then full imaging. So as you can see, your workspace continues to grow, which is a key factor, especially in these work from home scenarios where not everybody has necessarily that control room-like solution that they would have in the office. Increasing display area, it also increases productivity. Productivity has become really key. And when you have just your laptop display or your primary computer display, more often than not, you're limited on your screen size. It varies from 13-inch, sometimes 15-inch, or even 17-inch. For external desktop monitors, we have our display starting at 24-inch all the way up to our 49-inch ultra wide. So there's fewer errors that are being made in your productivity and whichever work environment you're working on. It allows you to have more workspace and your files open at full capable viewing, which has just really increased your overall work experience. We've also focused on the high resolution and full color gamut and actual reproduction of the information. So as an example, if you're working in a graphic design area, you want your colors and everything to be reproduced exactly as the brand that you're working on. And Samsung's always been key in developing that type of technology for the full reproduction that's realistic based on your overall work experience. The curved display. One of the reasons we've developed the curved display, and this happened years ago, starting with our consumer televisions, is based, simply put, your eyes position on your face. Your eyes are round, and the way it views everything, it's more natural to view things on a curved monitor as opposed to a standard rectangular monitor. So it makes it much easier for your overall eye health, which reduces headache and eye strain. As Hugues attested to earlier, the viewing image of a curved monitor or even a straight monitor reduces that strain, and it's good to have it at that eye level so that you're moving your eyes left to right or up to down slightly without having that strain on your neck, as most people do, stressed by looking at your phone all the time like this or tablets or whatnot. It actually brings more comfort and less strain on the neck. And as employers, you're still held responsible for any work-related injuries that could happen to the employees. So it's, as you mentioned, it's all about the ergonomics. You want to have your back straight, your legs straight, and the visual acuity of your eye to your monitor, as well as your laptop display, so that you can scan down quickly, look up, and be extremely productive within your work environment and your work day. Samsung has also built in the equipment in most of our monitors to reduce the clutter so that in your workspace, everything is clean and can be where it should be. This includes USB Type-C connectivity, as well as built-in USB hub for your other external peripherals, whether it being a Wi-Fi or Bluetooth-enabled keyboard, mouse, or any other device, so that it's one cable connecting from your laptop to the monitor, and you have all the space on your desk completely. The increased resolution and maximizes the viewing area is really important in regards to the type of work that you're doing. So when you're doing specific design work, such as I do for clients at times, I need to have a lot of space so I'm not straining. So my laptop is open to my emails and I'm able to do my full design work and templates and CAD drawings on my external desktop monitor. The curved monitor, I find for me, since I've transitioned to the curved monitors, has been extremely beneficial and less strenuous based on my eyes and the position of my eyes and my whole seating and positioning in my workspace. It also, with the USB hubs built in, it reduces external equipment requirements such as USB docks for charging and whatnot, and there's less chance of points of failure. Samsung's also developed our Flip 2 technology, which is our collaborative display. Not really meant for at home. However, we do have a 43-inch that will be coming available, and we have had some success with executives installing our 55-inch at home, where we do have a partnership with Microsoft, and that includes the Samsung Workspace, which has, once you enroll for it, the Office 365 application built into the display. So you would be able to connect your laptop wirelessly to this display, do all the annotation as Mariama suggested, and even in the Teams whiteboarding, you can save it directly onto the display. And because it would be connected to your company's network, email all that information. And if you're in multiple rooms, up to 4 displays can be connected at the same time. So as you're collaborating on one, it would be viewed on the 3 others and vice versa. Full interactive whiteboard, brainstorming, sharing of ideas. You can hold your interactive meetings as discussed, and you are actually able to rotate the display from landscape to portrait. And for this particular scenario, we've gone, and Quadbridge will talk more about the actual bundles, but this gives you an idea of different touch points of monitors, starting at a 24-inch, a 27-inch, and then a 34-inch wide curve, and the different functionalities available for it. The monitor really is the key setup for use that I find that makes a difference for me. Give you an idea, as mentioned, this is my setup here. So I have my laptop, which I usually have strictly my emails. I'm able to do design on one and an Excel file open on the other, and I'm able to see the full image. When you go with the ultra wide, depending on your actual desk space, you can actually have up to 5 full pages open on that 34-inch or 49-inch, depending on what you do. And since I have this installation, I also have them on arms instead of specifically on the desk. So that frees up my entire desk space to have other gadgets. As you can see, my Alexa device right there, that I have that clock, as Hugh said, and I have a lamp just next to that. So it's all about productivity and the comfort of use in your system. And that's pretty much all I have for myself. The monitor is very important, very key. We have a varying quality and lineup of monitors, and your Quadbridge sales representative will be able to help you with that. And for when it does come time to back to work, you will be able to use the Samsung displays for digital communication and signage for your company.
Thank you, Charles. So now the real question is, are your employees working from home are they equipped to be functional or productive? That's and now we're in the Q&A period. I will invite you to write your question. There's a question chat room on the right of your screen normally. And we already have a question from Patrick Aksamit for Miriama. So is the whiteboard and transcript already implemented in Teams?
Yes. So Patrick, thank you for your question. The whiteboard is already implemented. It's built in. So when you try to share your screen, you should see the logo already there. In terms of the transcript, so transcript post-meeting is already GA. So if you don't find it already when you end your meeting, you just gotta update your Teams and you should find it. In FY21 H2, that for us means in January, February, you'll be able to have during meeting transcripts. Now, to see all the roadmap of Teams or M365 or devices, you can go on the Microsoft website and write Microsoft 365 roadmap, and it would give you all the details of what's coming up and when it's coming up. Thank you.
Thank you, Miriam. So if you have a question, I invite you to type the question. We have another question. Gianluca is asking, could you provide the links to the research in the presentation? Yes, obviously we will send an email with all the different information related to the presentation, and you'll be able to look at them. And if you need help, we'll help you out in building your budget. Another question. This guy has really a great name, Roger Moore, Mr. James Bond. Question for Charles. Does Samsung have monitor with camera in them?
For the moment, we actually don't. That is in the pipeline roadmap for end of next year, but we always recommend doing external camera as peripherals as opposed to built in, because should your camera go down, you end up losing your whole monitor right off the bat.
Actually, you know, we have an example here. We sold to a customer for their reception desk some very nice looking monitor that had camera built in, and one of them broke and they're discontinued. So they're really upset the fact that they have to put a different type of monitor next to it. So I agree with you, Charles. It's better to have them separated unless it's in your laptop. Paul, Should company provide a chair and desk to their employee from home? What are their responsibility here? Well, the responsibility of the company is to ensure that their workers will not injure themselves while working. They're not forced to supply the furniture, but if the employee doesn't receive the proper training and anything on how to set themselves up, there might be repercussions for the company. So no, they're not obligated, but it's usually a very nice thing to do at least the chair, because this is where you will get the most, you're going to save the most injuries. Patrick XME, follow-up using Team as voice over IP phone. Is the call recording feature added yet? Another question for you, Miriam.
Yeah, so for the PSTN recording, it's also coming up. It should be by the end of the month, so you'll see that rolling out as well. You can see, again, all those details on the Office 365 roadmap. So I will try to ask actually the team at Quadbridge, we can share the link for the roadmap so you can have access to all of that. I do see another question from Daniel that I might try to answer, but I'll leave you adding up to this.
No, go. I'll let you go there.
The tools to relaxing. Of course, take breaks. Please block your calendars in order to not have the back-to-backs that I was talking about earlier. But one thing that I find very useful using is my analytics. And this is actually in Office 365, where it comes and blocks time in your calendar on its own. It's AI enhanced. So it blocks an hour or two to three times a week in your calendar as focus time. On Teams, it shows do not disturb, so you don't get disturbed by messages. I would suggest using those. Another personal suggestion is do block the 12 to 1 p.m. time and have people not book over your calendar.
Actually, I've seen another gadget. Oh, go, Charles. I'll go after.
So every hour I get up, I walk around, I'll do a few weights, get back, give myself 15 minutes every hour, especially that we're working from home. And as Mariama said, sleeping at home, which is our office. And I highly recommend investing in good time, daytime sweats versus your nighttime sweats. It's worked wonders.
So you're putting us to shame. You have to train a lot. Yeah. Actually, I saw an interesting gadget. It's a basically it's like bicycle pedals that go under your desk, so you can actually pedal while you work or while you're on a super long video conference. So it changed your mind, and also most of the tools we spoke about can really be used. Also, it makes for a great way to watch a series during your lunchtime. So yeah, Netflix during lunchtime is a good way to break things up. But I strongly encourage to actually go outside, go around the block, come back. It's worth it. So Daniel, I don't know if I answered exactly what you wanted, but I hope. If not, you can write to me, and I'll try to find stuff to help you de-stress. Do we have another question? I believe that's it. I want to respect the time. Also, thank you very much, everybody, to have attended the webinar today. Thank you very much for giving us the time. Thank you to Mariama. Thank you to Charles. We really appreciate it. We hope that was helpful and that will help you manage your employees' well-being. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.